Activity 1.4 is called Crush the Bug, and as you can probably gather from the name, it's all about bugs and debugging. The first part of this is just going to take you through the essential questions, and as I always recommend and suggest, it is a good idea to write these questions down in your notes, and you can answer them along the way. Next thing with the materials, you're going to obviously need access to the MakeCode website, which we've done in the previous activities. You also, where it says optional, you will definitely need the microbit and the USB cable for this assignment as well. Resources. There are 8 hex files. You need to download all 8 hex files. So again, you click on it and it automatically goes to your downloads folder. If you're an organized person, you will take it from your downloads folder and drag it over to your Google Drive. That's just an option for most of you that are keeping everything nice and clean in your drive. Down here it's going to walk you through the origination for the word bug and then also debugging. So please do take the time to read through it. It's a very interesting story where the first use of the word bug actually came into play. It was clear back in 1947. So take some time to read through that. And it shows you a picture of the female that was in charge of the word bug as Grace Hopper, and she came across it, and then just read the rest of that. Be kind of an interesting information for you. Finding a bug. There are several steps when you start to debug code. Now your code isn't always going to work, as you can imagine from all the work we've done already. Sometimes you will have something where maybe the pause, as you see right here, is not long enough. So 500 milliseconds is only half of a second. So if you're wanting it to extend longer, you can extend out the sequence. Now remember, code is read line by line. So it's going to read the pause, it's going to turn this light on, it's going to pause, and then it's going to repeat back if you have it in a repeat. Otherwise, it's going to go from here down to clear the screen. So you have to pay attention to what the blinking LED code is actually doing. Couple questions. As always, you can type the answers here, or you can write those answers down right in your notebooks. This is an example of code tracing. The first time I came across code tracing, I thought it was a waste of time. I thought, why would you need to do this? I started to code trace some assignments and projects that my partners and I worked on where we had 60, 70, 80 lines of code. It is a very important skill to understand how to use correctly. What you would do in your notes is draw this table, and in the left-hand column, this is where you're going to write down the code. So for instance, maybe it's supposed to have a blinking LED or something like that. So I'm going to draw or write the code here. What is supposed to happen? Now if I have something that I push button A and it's supposed to blink, my outcome or expected outcome is exactly what I just said. I'm supposed to press a button and then something is supposed to happen. Is it correct? Yes or no? If it's correct, you obviously don't have a bug in that line of code. Go to the next line. And you can chunk it into small parts. So instead of doing 80 lines of code, line 1, line 2, line 3, this might be a little sequence of the code. It's an event handler. And we've talked a little bit about that as well. To keep track of code tracing and so forth, after you've isolated the anomaly or bug, try changing. So once you figure out, okay, hey, this is not working the way it's supposed to, then you need to debug. And it's going to show you some debugging steps here. Below your code tracing chart, describe how you're able to fix the program. So you're going to debug those codes that you just downloaded, those 8 hex files, and you need to be aware of how did you debug those codes. Debug your hardware too. Now, just like we've talked about, the microbit is not a very expensive piece of technology, so sometimes they don't work. Sometimes the buzzer might not work, or the cables, or the clips, or the USB cable. So you do have to be aware of, maybe it's not plugged in correctly. Maybe I need to test it a little bit differently. That's where it's called troubleshooting. A helpful comment. This will be very beneficial to you doing Activity 1.4. They left comments. So you're going to click on the comments, and it's going to show you right here, there will be a little icon. You click it, and it's basically going to tell you, hey, here's where the bugs, here's where the errors are located. You then fix those. right here. So it's a question mark. You click the question mark, it pops up a box, and then you make the changes. So it says loop of blinking LED. So it must mean it needs to have a loop going right there. So here is your loop, while true, while true. So what else does it mean? Okay, I fixed it. Now I want to remove that comment. You just click back on it. Debugging steps. Please take the time to write down these debugging steps right in your notebooks. This will be very important once we get into project 1.5 and once we get into lesson 2. Buggy code. Now, there's a slight change to the directions here. I had asked you to download all 8 hex files from the above part, the part from above. You need to fix at least 4 of the codes. And then there's a PowerSchool learning assignment where you're taking screenshots and it shows you exactly how to do that. And you also need to type a description of how did you change the code. Import your Buggy program. This is very simple. Once you've downloaded it, you're then going to the MakeCode website. You're clicking on projects, and I'll just open this up real quick. Let the first project just load. I'm going to click on projects. I'm going to click on import file, and this is also how you import it from your Google Drive. So if it's in your downloads or Google Drive, I click import, then I'm going to choose that file, and then I'm going to work it. And a good suggestion would be, here's the names, like Moss, so forth. I may rename the one that I fixed and put this and put the word fixed or corrected or debugged at the end so I know the difference between the original and that one. A couple more steps here just to make sure you're debugging. Conclusion, as always, read the questions, write the answers in your notes, and then do double check in PowerSchool. There is an assignment in there where you have to do some screenshots. All right, thanks a lot.